Hello good people of the world and welcome to another video. I am the gaming psychologist, but feel free to just call me GP. Now I must start with a warning. This video contains spoilers. And you know what's really sad about giving a spoiler warning for this particular video? It's that I shouldn't have to. Everyone in the entire world should have played this game, and I know what you're thinking. That's a completely ridiculous thing to say. And the rational logistical side of me knows that you're absolutely right. But the other side of me wonders how a AAA game from a huge third-party developer that received so much critical praise and was even released multi-format sold, tragically, so poorly. So, unfortunately, the majority of you have probably not played this game. Ergo, there's a fairly substantial chance of spoilers, and so my warning is probably more justified than I would have hoped it needed to be. Beyond Good and Evil was released in 2003. It's over a decade old, which, in industry terms, is probably the equivalent of an old man rocking back and forth in a chair with a pipe and slippers. Although, to be fair, a HD re-release was made in 2011, which sort of reinvigorated it a little. You see, the combination of the game both being old and selling poorly means that a lot of you watching have probably never even heard of Beyond Good and Evil, and those that have probably never played through it. Now, I say it's tragic because Beyond Good and Evil was a critically acclaimed work of genius, something I can personally vouch for as I have had the distinct pleasure of having played through it a number of times. Set on the planet of Hylas, home to a mixture of humans and anthropomorphic beings, the main protagonist is a human photographer called Jade. Jade is just another citizen trying to do the best she can in the midst of a frightening war. The planet is under attack by aliens called the Doms. The Dom's attacks are random, unpredictable, and devastating, which usually result in the kidnapping of hundreds of people. The Alpha sections are a supposed army of trained soldiers that have been protecting the planet and fighting the Doms. However, something isn't quite right about them. Eventually, Jade is contacted by a member of the Iris Network, a small group of people who believe there is a conspiracy going on and that the Alpha sections are in some way infiltrated with the Doms. But they don't have proof and they need Jade to gather photographic evidence. With propaganda plaguing the streets and lots of shady characters, the game does a good job of making you doubt who's to be trusted, leaving you apprehensive about what you do and thoroughly engrossing you in its rich and carefully constructed story. As the game unfolds, you begin to collect incriminating evidence on the Alpha sections, such as human traffic, their warped alien faces, and eventually enough evidence to show the people who they really are. The game has gorgeous graphics, fantastic characters, a wonderful story, brilliant side games, and one of the most beautiful soundtracks I've ever heard. Basically, all of this though just scratches the surface. The game swept me up in its imagination and hooked me. It's so well done and well worth revisiting. I could go on as there's lots of additional information which makes this game really special. However, I imagine that the people watching, you, will fall into one of two categories. Either you have played it or you haven't. If you've played it, then you've already experienced these things, and if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Go download it and play it right now. Trust me, it's amazing. Anyway, I digress. This video is about the sequel. Quite simply, will we ever see it? Now, there's been a little news on this recently, which I'll touch on in a second. It's nothing revolutionary, but things do look a tiny bit more promising than they did a year ago. And if the continuation of Shenmue and the remake of Final Fantasy VII are anything to go by, then there's always hope. So what's the problem here? Why hasn't the game been released yet? After all, Ubisoft did release a trailer for the second game 7 years ago, which suggests that despite the poor sales the first game received, the company was still planning on following it up with a sequel. In fact, the title here, One the Pig, gives the impression that there were more trailers of a similar concept planned for the game's marketing strategy. Perhaps 2 was Double H, 3 something else, and so on, with the last perhaps being Jade. So, what's changed? Why did Ubisoft go quiet? Was it their finances? No. Ubisoft have actually been doing quite well, with only a slight dip in profits at the beginning of this year. Well, there were rumours about a busy schedule and that they wanted to get Rayman Origins and Legends out of the way first, but Rayman Legend has been out for a while now and there's still no official confirmation, leading some to believe that the sequel has been cancelled. However, Michael Ansel, the creator of Beyond Good and Evil, confirmed himself that the game was still being worked on, which means it's in development hell. Now, recently, and quite interestingly, and this is that little bit of news I was talking about, Ubisoft filed a trademark for Beyond Good and Evil. This could mean everything, or it could mean nothing. It might be that they're just doing it to hold on to ownership, but it could of course mean that development of the sequel has been reignited, and if this is the case, then I would presume that the best time to reveal it would be at E3. But you never know, it could also be later on in the year. Only time will tell. Part of me also feels I need to address the rumours that the game will be an NX exclusive title, but a bigger part also feels I shouldn't even dignify them with acknowledgement, and that's because the whole thing is completely absurd. Mate, think about it. We know very little about Beyond Good and Evil 2, we know even less about the NX, we don't even know if it's a home console or not, and even if it is, why would Ubisoft restrict the sequel of a poor selling game on a machine that is a successor to one of Nintendo's poorest selling home consoles? Besides, has everyone forgot what happens to Rayman Legends that was meant to be an exclusive on the Wii U? There is just so much that doesn't make sense about this rumour. I'm just amazed that people will unquestionably take it as fact. And that's all I'm going to say about it. Beyond Good and Evil was such a rich and emerging story that really left an impact on me. From the leaked footage, there's clearly been a lot of work that's been put into it already. Some complain this footage looks a lot like Assassin's Creed and nothing like Killers. And being subjective, I can understand where they're coming from. But they're taking the footage out of storyline context, and on top of that, this is a work in progress that shouldn't have been seen by the public anyway, so I don't really feel that's a fair comparison to make, and I personally think it looks amazing. In a statement made to a French magazine, Mr. Ansel said, "This time we're dealing with the planet's future and the relationship with the animals." I found this quite interesting, particularly as Paige is seen instinctually sucking up flies through his nostrils in the trailer. It's just a theory, but it suggests to me that there will be a conflict between animals and humans. The first game gave evidence to suggest that experiments, perhaps gene splicing, have led to the race that currently inhabits the world, and perhaps that makes the humans feel that they have some kind of superiority over the animals. This premise alone is a very exciting prospect for a story and something which might work out really well. When you look at the success of similar concepts such as Zootropolis, there's clearly an interest in this sort of thing, and if done correctly, could work really well. What happened to the first game is almost criminal, and is a major blow to creative freedom across the industry. As a fan, I'm happy to make my voice heard, as I believe storytelling and active imagination are one of the few delightful things left in this hardened reality of ours. Beyond Good and Evil is a wonderful example of gripping and powerful storytelling woven into a beautiful yet disregarded game. Ubisoft, if you're listening, please, in the name of creativity and art, do it for the fans. Thanks for watching. This is the GP, signing off.